get back to some boring subjects.
Understand the risk to our country.
Freedom brings people together.
You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com.
Hey, welcome to the program today. My name is Chris Spangle. We are talking about the National Libertarian Day of Service. I found out about that this week and wanted to promote it, and we have Elliot Scheirman on to talk about it, as well as Tricia Stuart-Mann, and Rhinehold is here, and haven't heard from Harry at all, but I imagine he'll be along after a while. But anyways, we'll be right back after this break.
Warning. This show is for adults by semi-adults, so the language is sometimes strong and offensive.
I don't know what I said.
Welcome to the Chris Spangle Show. Our goal is to help you sound smarter while talking to your friends. If you struggle to understand politics, we explain it from an independent libertarian point of view. With all of the irreverence it deserves, we toss out the screaming heads, put people before political parties, and give context to the news to make you think. Now, here's our host, Chris Spangle, a 15-year veteran of politics and media.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Chris Spangle Show on the We Are Libertarians podcast network. It is so great to be with you today. We are glad that you have joined us. We are back live streaming on YouTube, so let's see how long that lasts. And we should also point out, go check out the YouTube channel. Brian Nichols is now doing video on the Brian Nichols Show. We have been putting the network shows in the Chris Spangle Show feed for the last couple weeks, just so you can check them out and see how great all the different shows on the network are. Not just the Chris Spangle Show. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see Mittens joining in the background. She is just saying hello. Hi, buddy. All right. You can check out all the shows on the We Are Libertarians podcast network at wearelibertarians.com, including the brand new podcast that is about to debut here in the next few months publicly. But for Wall patrons, The History of Modern Politics with Matt Whitliff and I will debut here in the next couple of weeks. And the goal is basically to give you a full background in history on the development of modern political thought in America. It's going to be up to 6 seasons now in our outline. It's going to take the same rigorous research we put towards politics on this program and apply that to history and eventually get to modern day. What's the background of the immigration debate? What's the background of the gun debate? What is the total worldview that we are talking about here in America? And you will hear that if you are a patron. So joinwallplus.com is how you can listen at the $10 level. If you are a patron, make sure you check that out. And if you just want to subscribe now and be notified when it's public because you're cheap, then you can go to historyofmodernpolitics.com, sign up for the email, and there's also a free podcast feed called History of Modern Politics with a couple of episodes in there, a couple of former bonus episodes. And Matt and I recorded the episode 00 today, and that'll be in your feed soon. So go check that out as we talk a little bit about that. We've also got Enemy of My Enemy, the new podcast with Hody that you've been hearing in the feed. It will get its own feed very soon. I've just been setting up the History of Modern Politics. But you should also check out Gingerarchy, which is one of my favorite shows on the entire internet. Tricia Stuart-Mann is one of the funniest people, the sweetest people on the planet. And she has a podcast called Gingerarchy. And Tricia, our stereos are always hilarious because there's all kinds of great thought. Like you can go back and listen to the Fourth Wave Feminism podcast that we did. And we have all these like intellectual conversations. And then the callers on stereo completely derail it like Mr. Chevy Man 47 did a few episodes ago.
You know what? That's what makes it really fun, because if we get too deep into the weeds on philosophy, and that just brings me right back to the fact that I'm just not as smart as I think I am.
Or sometimes I do those and I'm like, I am smart. I am smart after talking to some of these. Yeah.
No, I was so glad I had Jason Bassler on recently on the last episode from Police the Police about accountability, obviously with what's going on right now. And I was hoping we would get call-ins, and we didn't. And then I was kind of glad we didn't, because he's a really, educated person on it. And I would really hate for somebody to just come on and fart and
We literally had a guy that just called. The stereos are so much fun. So go check out those episodes in Gingerarchy and subscribe to her show now. She is our token anarchist here on the network, along with Harry. Rhinehold, how are you today?
I'm doing well. It's kind of a cloudy day, but I think it's going to be a fun one. So I'm excited and glad to be here.
Glad to see you here. Well, I won't violate your HIPAA and talk about what you've been dealing with, but it's been very painful. So we're glad to see you here and in a good mood. Also with us is Elliot Scheirman. Chris Galt is supposed to be here. We have no idea where that slacker is. He may be along soon. But Elliot, I followed you on Twitter for a long time. I know you're from Texas, and I know that you always have a good line or two on Twitter. But I don't know much about you, and I'm sure some of our audience does not either. Let's start. How did you get involved in the Libertarian Party, and what have you? I know you ran for office. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, good morning, Chris, and thanks for having me on. I first got involved and discovered what libertarian meant in 2008, back during that presidential cycle. And I had plenty of the Republican wars and just couldn't get behind any of the Democrat spending and, all of their other plans. So I started looking elsewhere and kind of through just office conversations, discovered what the word libertarian meant. And then once I had something to Google, it kind of went from there. I guess I officially got involved locally in the party in 2013 and have been, active since at the county and state level. And then finally last year in 2020, I ran for U.S. Congress here in the Houston area against the red flag laws loving Dan Crenshaw.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So that's his infamy kind of promoted, what I was doing a little bit because I was the only one on the ticket who didn't support gun control. And, he and the Democrat obviously both did. So
I thought Dan Crenshaw was a libertarian. How dare you, Elliot?
Yeah, he certainly likes to present himself that way. But then if you actually watch his voting record and the things he says when he's not exactly on script, then you pretty quickly discover he's pretty rudderless and just wants to be in power.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, it's great to make your acquaintance here on the program. Before we move on, I have my script because I script everything, even after 20 years of being a radio broadcaster. I can't not have a script because I'm too ADD. And before we start and talk about Libertarian Day of Service, I want to thank all of the members of Wall Plus. And you guys are the reason on this new history show, I just had to ship off $600 worth of equipment to Matt to make him look good and sound good. Tricia's on a mic that patrons bought. And you guys just really make this network sing, look good, sound professional. And I want to thank you guys so much for that. That $600 expense this month was paid for by patrons. And it wasn't me calling Jason Doolittle and Christy Avery going, hey, can I borrow like $400 like I had to in the old days, or paying out of my own pocket? I mean, we've put a lot of, now that I have a girlfriend and it's just, the budget isn't what it used to be because she's like, why are you spending $600 on microphones? So I want to thank all of the patrons for making that possible, making this network thrive, making all of it look and sound great and help us reach new territory. And I want to especially thank our $100 a month members, John Pusilo, Casey Feldposh. My associate producer is being very loud. So hold on.
Uh-oh.
So we're doing it live.
Yes, this is live here. Lars Nordskog, Jake Edel, Matthew Durbin, Jeff Bennett, Rhinehold, Christy Avery, and Jason Doolittle. Thank you to every Wall Plus subscriber for keeping the We Are Libertarians podcast network thriving. So we are talking today about the Libertarian Day of Service because this obviously fits in great with a lot of what we are talking about. And I wanted to promote this because I want our listeners to get involved in their local area and give you a template of how to do that. So, Elliot, who is behind the National Libertarian Day of Service?
So it's actually a political action committee called People for Liberty. And they were founded during the Jorgensen campaign when there was a lot of new actually female interest in the Libertarian Party. And there was an excitement to that, behind that campaign. And they formed as a way to not only promote Dr. Jorgensen, but also other down ballot Libertarian candidates. The founder is Lauren Postler. She's actually from here in Houston, and I met her through my wife, Liz. So that's how I got involved with this. Yeah, it looks like you brought up their website there. The URL for their website, if you want to learn more about them, is people, the number 4, and then liberty.org. And right now they're promoting the National Libertarian Day of Service, as you mentioned. I didn't hear about this until about a week and a half ago, but as soon as I did, I knew it was something that I wanted to get involved with. You might remember last summer's, what did they do? The Let Her Speak caravan campaign that happened across the U.S. That was originally founded by Casey Daly and heavily amplified by the People for Liberty organization. And the mentality behind that is, let's come up with an idea that's easy to replicate and that anyone can do in their own home, and give them all the tools and branding they need to be successful and help market it. And then we have suddenly a nationwide presence for what we're trying to accomplish. So that being said, I just wanted to make sure that we had something set up in Houston. So I organized as many of you may know, Houston is the Bayou City. So I thought what would be more iconic than doing a Bayou cleanup? So we're going to have volunteers show up with trash bags and gloves and pick up trash along the Bayou in Houston.
That's excellent. There is also a Facebook group that people can join if you want some ideas. We were going to have Casey on today, but we got the dates mixed up. I think that was my fault, and she is out in the woods, so she couldn't be with us. But Casey Daly is a great organizer of this. You can go to Facebook and look up National Libertarian Day of Service. There's already 3,600 folks in there. They've got some T-shirts that you can fund, tons of great ideas. So you can check that out. There's Spike getting in on it, Spike Cohn, and promoting across the board different ideas and folks who are doing stuff in their local area, including our own Chris Galt, one of the co-founders of the podcast, is putting something together in Morgan County, Indiana, which he was supposed to be here to promote, but he has apparently slept in along with Harry. It's so hard not being a professional podcast. Let's talk about why this is important, and we'll go around the horn. We'll start with Tricia. Why is it important to not just to serve, but also to be seen serving in your community?
Well, I think number one, that's a great way to get, seen as a libertarian, because, you're pushed out of everything else on purpose by the two major parties. So, charity is always a good way to do that. But beyond that, the fact that we libertarians a lot of times are seen as really cold people who don't want to pay taxes and don't want to help anybody. And we all know that's simply not true. But when you put that into action in your community, then people can understand. And I think it changes a lot of minds. There's a lot of great liberty organizations that do that. And I myself, being a voluntarist, to me, that doesn't mean that I just want people to leave me alone. It also means that I'm going to voluntarily make my community a better place. So kudos on what you guys are doing. That's awesome. I'm going to check it out. I do know some other local organizations too, but I don't think we have one here in Medina. So I think I'm going to reach out to our county for that.
Rhinehold?
I think so. I've always been on the side that we should be out there living and doing what we say should be done. So in libertarianism, we talk about how we don't need the government taking care of people because we can take care of them ourselves. We can do it without being forced to do it. We do it voluntarily. And when you try to talk to people about libertarianism and moving away from that government force doing it to the communities doing it, the people doing it, a lot of people get scared and a lot of people don't understand it because they're just not used to that, seeing that happen and seeing what it looks like in place. And by going out and doing it, you can show that you can prove to people that your ideas work. And then once you can prove to people that your ideas are viable and better, they're more likely to elect you and get you in the office to make those changes, to make that happen locally. And even the best part about the whole thing is that we don't need to wait for anybody's permission. We don't need to wait for the government to vote it in. We're going to do this. We don't need to have anybody other than ourselves just go out and do it. We can do it now. We don't have to wait. Right. So I'm always for getting out, doing the work, showing that we don't need those government programs because we can do it ourselves. And the proof is in the pudding, as it were.
Elliot, why are you doing this? What are your motivations?
Well, something I learned just long ago, no matter what organization you're a part of, people are going to associate that with you in the way you act. So if you're not living your principles, then you're doing what you're trying to accomplish a disservice. And we want libertarians to win. We want voluntarism. Tricia hit the nail on the head. We want that to be the way we solve our problems. And if we're not out there setting an example, inspiring others to join us, then we're not doing our job to effectively grow the organization. So our event specifically is the bayou cleanup, but we're also having a can drive associated with that too. So it doesn't only help the people who happen to live along the bayou and see trash, but also the can drive we're donating to the Houston Food Bank. And that's an organization that I've volunteered a lot with over the last year, especially during all of the job losses associated with COVID. We've had, the food bank has had, miles long lines of people that are just can't feed their families and have to show up and, hope that there's been enough food donated. And, that's the kind of stuff where if we're not out there doing and helping that, then we really have no right saying that we as libertarians have a better way to do things. Like, we have to be out there. We have to show our compassion, because otherwise we're just going to let the stereotypes that are incorrect define us. And I'm not willing to do that.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because Tricia, I think the view of Ayn Rand, individualism and selfishness, and libertarians are hard-hearted bastards who just are greedy capitalists who only want to enrich themselves on the back of the little guy.
I think we lost your audio there.
Yeah, I'm losing your audio.
That's weird. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, we can.
That libertarians are just like the hard-hearted capitalists who just want to get rich and just want to enrich themselves on the back of the little guy. They're basically modern-day colonialists. I mean, answer that. Defend your position, please.
Yes. Well, I am a fan of objectivism, although I'm not technically.
All right. Thank you for joining us here on the show today, Tricia. It's been so great having you.
However, I don't want to get into the semantics of that, but the thing is that those stereotypes actually belong more with the government than they do with voluntarists. So, just like Elliot said, we have to live that and be that. And whenever you use government, it's always the worst. When, you have lots of money stolen from lots of people and filtered through this big bureaucracy, it comes down to not going to the right places. People get way less, a worse product, whether it comes to, welfare programs, entitlement programs, or anything like that. Whereas what they're doing with Libertarian Day of Service, or like with We Do Better, or Liberty Memes, what they're doing is directly taking the funds that have been allocated from private people, voluntarily giving it, and it goes straight to that person with low overhead. So libertarian charity and service is actually much more, what's the word I'm looking for? It's much more streamlined. It's a better way of charity. I don't necessarily think stealing from somebody is charitable. It's very easy for politicians to stand and pontificate, but they don't really pull anything out of their own pocket. They're pulling it from yours. And so libertarian charity is by far the best form of charity, because it actually is.
Rhinehold, what do you want to add to that?
Just a voluntary action. I mean, when you have the government involved in it, they're going to take their cut, right? It's a middleman in the position, making sure that money gets diverted to other things that they want to do too, right? So all you're doing with government is authorizing who's going to point the guns in which direction in order to take the wealth from certain people, whether they need it or not. And the one thing that kind of gets me on that, an explanation of that, is that what happens to the people who are at the borderline, the people who are just getting by, who are struggling to get through life, and they have something happen to them, right? That's not of their own fault. And now they're like trying to make the bills, but they're also trying to fix the problems that had happened to them. Like, car broke down or an illness or something like that. Now they end up struggling and needing help themselves. If we were to take away taxation on those people, and there's so many different ways that we tax people in order to take that money to supposedly help other people. If we can lower or eliminate that and ease that burden on them, then they can decide when they want to be able to help or when they can help, and also when they can't, when they say they need to help themselves. And it gives the individual the power. It gives the individual the ability to live their lives and maintain a better situation and not fall to needing help as much. I think we would have less poverty by that, by not forcing people into those decisions that they shouldn't have to make.
Elliot, you mentioned the lockdowns and the last year of COVID. I mean, it's not just government action. I mean, there was job loss because of people making different choices because of their safety, but government action plays a huge role in it. I mean, if you look at Indianapolis, we've been open, and you're in Texas, so I'm sure it's largely the same. Like, our life hasn't been all that different in terms of government interference since July of last year. But if you're in Philadelphia, if you're in California, like our friend Jeff Bennett, who runs an ampersand ice cream in Fresno, your life is it has been interfered with, and jobs are at a premium right now because of that. And that's put a lot of those people on the margins before even further into it. You've seen the food lines, 300% increase to suicide hotlines locally, doubling, if not quadrupling, of need for food at the local food bank here in Indianapolis. What are some ways that, and anybody jump in on this, but I'm going to ask Elliot specifically, that you've seen libertarians jump in to help fight for those people on the margins and help with a private response? I mean, have you seen anything locally there in Texas? Have you participated in anything? And Tricia, talk about some of those groups that you mentioned earlier that are doing some of that after Elliot's done.
Well, contrary to popular belief, the Republican governor of Texas did do some significant shutdowns. And the main issue is that, the donors and voters, supporting base of these politicians are largely white collar workers who can work from home and remotely and have that luxury. But, the service industry, the vast majority of blue collar workers, like, they just got the shaft of all of these shutdowns. And when you have the government deeming who's a necessary job and what's not, that's just completely wrong. And one thing that I made, well, obviously COVID was, front and center during my congressional campaign last year. One thing that I made really clear is, people need to take the virus seriously and all of the damaging effects it has. But business owners and their own decision making need to lead the way for that. If you are going to employ people and put them at risk, you need to make safety accommodations for your employees and your patrons. And if not, you need to be held financially liable for being a super spreader or something to that effect. That way, the market can incentivize people to do the right thing, and you don't politicize something that everyone should be taking seriously and draw lines in the sand. Regarding going back to the voluntarism and helping people out with charity, the government has been the biggest enabler in history of the bystander effect. People see an issue and they think, oh, that's the government's job, so I'm not going to worry about it. But the pure raw number of people who see and acknowledge problems that we have in our own society and communities, if they just lifted more of a finger to help out and didn't assume the government was going to take care of it, we could solve a lot of this with a lot more effective use of resources. And you give the satisfaction and responsibility of people taking care of their own communities, strengthening those bonds. So I think that's something that's really been lost by the wayside with the overbearing amount of government, quote unquote, assistance and help to solve these kinds of problems.
Yeah, and let me jump in before Tricia responds. I mean, I hosted a public affairs program locally called Now Hear This. There's a podcast feed of it. I've put some of the more relevant ones in the Chris Spangle feed. But talking to nonprofits for a straight year, and I've since stopped doing that show to focus on other projects, but you see, even when it was human contact had to be limited, you saw an innovation in the nonprofit sector in this town that you like the guys at, I think it's 9. I'm going to get it wrong, so I'm just not even going to say it. But their charity was basically taking cycling to schools and teaching kids about riding bicycles and health and they basically couldn't go to schools and they had to completely change up their business model. And they have all these trailers, so they started doing food deliveries for schools and helping the schools that they partner with to go out. And, that is a great example of an immediate pivot. Now, when you look at the ability of a local bureaucracy to pivot, it's like turning around the Titanic. But these nonprofits and mutual aid societies can pivot very quickly in the face of all of this and make a pivot that really helps folks. And if you go and listen to some of those episodes on Now Hear This, you'll see, if you're one of the folks who thinks that government helped, I just say, like, the best they could do was $2,000, and that took months of negotiations to send you some aid. If in terms of protecting your health, they did a very poor job in America. So it is really up to the individual to protect themselves, their family, and make sure that you're saving for times of strife. And for those who are on the margins, private charity can and will step up. And like I said, Gleaners, the big food bank here, had 4 times the surge at some points. They never wanted for food. There wasn't one point where the local food banks went without food, because even though places like Meijer and Walmart were being hit by people panic shopping, they still had enough to feed the food banks and get that distribution out there. So private charity can really be instrumental in these periods. Tricia, go ahead.
Yeah, and also just real quick to piggyback on what you said about private food banks, there are a lot of them, especially run by religious organizations, that don't require income verification. So if you are on that edge where, well, maybe I made $50,000 last year and I lost my job and all my savings is gone, well, you should still be able to eat, just because you happen to make something last year. So I think that's something that government usually uses income verification. And it's only for a certain, poverty level. But so as far as private libertarian organizations, and one's not necessarily libertarian, but there's 4 that are always on my heart. Unfortunately, this year was hard for me, so I had to stop being a patron, but I hope to go back. It's called We Do Better. I don't know if you know Dan Johnson, but he runs it. He's a libertarian. What he does is reallocates government funds. He found a loophole that would go to government programs, and he gets to put them into private charity. So he helps people. It took a lot of work for them to do that. And there's a lot of laws and things he needed to know, but it's an awesome organization. They could go to somebody that has addiction problems and send them somewhere that's private, not government run, and they're going to get better help immediately. So that's a really cool, it's called We Do Better, and you can find them anywhere, but wedobetter.org. Then I would say one of my new favorite ones is Liberty Memes. They've got their $5 club. David Gay is the founder of that. I know David and Peter Gay are the Liberty Memes guys, and they started just having a meme page. But now I believe altogether with the GoFundMes that they've helped participate in or start, I think aren't they up to almost 2 million?
Oh, wow. When we talked to David, we did an interview. So it was Christmas weekend. We aired an interview with the Liberty Memes with David about that. And so go and check out what they were doing. They were at 1 million at that point. So they're already up to 2.
And some people were, how people will poke at any type of charity or...
It doesn't matter. Elliot, you can respond here if you'd like. It doesn't matter what any libertarian does. It's never going to be good enough. Like, we're all going to, every libertarian who does anything... It's not libertarians. If you're a human being that does anything and you live in the world in any way, like you stay at home, you're going to get criticized. If you go out, you're going to get criticized. If you do charity, you're going to get... Ignore the criticism. It's just crazy how we nitpick at everything. Like, Liberty Memes does great work, and everybody I see the pick on them. I'm just like, come on.
Yeah. I actually got to meet David. He and I both spoke for an opening speech that Spike did here in the Houston area. And at an after event, he was telling me about the $5 club. So I went ahead and joined it, and I've been part of that as well.
Great. Yeah, I am. The We Are Libertarians Network is, and they are patrons of We Are Libertarians. So we love Liberty Memes. Go check out the Liberty Memes $5 Club.
Yes, awesome. Can I add on?
Yeah, please. Okay. Anybody jump in here.
Okay, so then another great one, which isn't necessarily libertarian at all, but it really is a libertarian idea, and that is the Innocence Project. I think it's ridiculous that we live in this country and that people are put behind bars with poor prosecution. They're innocent. They face the death penalty, and nobody cares, and they don't have representation. That's not the way a civilized society should run. And here in the United States, we have the largest prison population in the world. It's a pretty weird price to pay to be free, I think. And so that's a big one on my heart. You can do join locally. There's nationally, there's state organizations. And then the last one, which I've raised a lot of funds for in the past through different organizations, voluntary organizations, is Save the Children Yemen, the Yemen chapter. It's difficult because some of Save the Children, they're large organizations. Some people wouldn't like it, people that are on the board. But the fact is that it's very difficult to get into Yemen. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the crisis there. There is a genocide right now, and America has blood on their hands. And so in order to get in there, you need somebody that's been there longstanding, and that Save the Children is pretty much one of the only ones that can work with the United Nations to get in there. They get clean water and medicine to children that are dying of diseases that you don't need to die of. And so that one is a close one to my heart. I've raised money for that for years. And you can go right there to Save the Children /Yemen. Another thing you can do, if you don't have any money right now, maybe you had a bad year. I know that feeling. Man, if you've got a platform, use it, share the links. Don't share them, on the main thing, but tell your friends about it. Make them aware of the crisis that's going on out there, because, $25 can get a safe water kit to a child and save a child's life. So, and to me, that's probably the most libertarian thing we can do, because we don't have a lot of control over foreign wars, because we don't hold any power here in the United States as elected officials. But what we can do is at least try to help what our country is doing and do the opposite. So,
feel free. Rhinehold, do you want to add anything?
Just wanted to bring up, so the other problem we have is that when we try to do these charities, government sees the competition and likes to slap it down. So how many times have we seen stories about people trying to give food to food banks or trying to give food to people,
pouring bleach on them?
Yeah, they're violating laws. The government's pouring bleach on the food. It's insane how much they want to protect that little power grab that they have, because they know that that's how they base everything that they do on, by saying, hey, we need your money for taxation to help the underprivileged and help the people who need it. But they're really funneling a lot of it to big business, to wars, all the other things that we don't want them doing. So by focusing on the charities themselves and giving to them to the point where if we could just get to the point where they don't need any government assistance to help the people who need the help, then those government programs are useless. We can get rid of them. Then what power does the government have really to gaslight people into supporting their ever increasing power? That's how you battle it. And I know one of the things I see for charity that I'm a big fan of, since we want to go down that path, is mentoring programs. I'm real big on mentoring programs because there's so many people. We've destroyed so many communities in this country through just horrible government action that's really designed to destroy those communities, between the drug war and the new Jim Crow laws and all that stuff that are going on. We need to reach those people and try to help them so that they can break free of that cycle that they're put on just by the mindless action of the government.
Yeah, one example here locally is the Starfish Initiative, and it's got funding from many different corporations, and it's well funded. And basically, they take somebody from, like a Rhinehold from rural America, older white male, and pairs them with maybe a younger black female, or like a cross-cultural connection. And the goal is basically to help, low-income families who don't have a history of collegiate attendance. They pair them with somebody to help them. They're in middle school and they have a track towards college, and the goal is basically to help them navigate filling out applications. What is the SAT? What is the road to college? What does that look like? Because people in their family don't have that background. And it's like a core piece of knowledge that I think my family took for granted. My mom went to college. Well, my dad went to college, but like that was like my early college days, like C's and F's. But there was still an awareness of how to fill out a college application because everybody in my family had gone to college. Lower income families in poor neighborhoods don't often have that ability to give that skill to folks. And you take a look at any of the mentoring programs that I talk to in that Now Hear This feed, and it is changing lives. Not Boys and Girls Club of America and all these different groups that do such a great job of being a lifeline for kids that are in tough situations. I have a friend who was a big sister, and that connection, actually, she's a former co-host of the podcast. She's a big sister, and that is a lifelong friendship with a girl that the family didn't totally know that the girl needed some assistance in certain ways. And through that friendship, through that mentoring, that girl, the trajectory of her life has changed, and so is the trajectory of my friend. So, mentoring, I think you're totally right. It is there's so many great programs out there that connect different people in different ways, cross-culturally, and that just completely makes us stronger. It makes the fabric of our local community stronger, and our society as a whole stronger. So, totally agree with you, Rhinehold.
And I was we forgot to mention Rupert's Kids. Which
is
another great,
cannot forget
charity.
Rupert.
Yeah.
Rupert is a mentor who takes folks, kids who are in their late teens, early 20s, who have been in the system their entire lives. You get out of a juvenile program and you graduate from your stay at the county jail with $150 a week in payments, and you can't get a job because you have now a criminal record. And you're a young person, so you don't have any income anyways, even if you were from an affluent family. Well, now what do you do to pay that $150 fee? You go back to the life that made you money. And you've probably got some training from better criminals during your stay in jail. So we set people up for failure as they're leaving the criminal justice system. And what Rupert's Kids does is set them up with the dignity of work and getting them, helping them pay their bills and being a safety net for folks. We don't need the welfare state that we have in this country is predatory and is not actually saving many people. It is continuing dependence. And there is a great book by Elizabeth Hinton, and I'm going to look this up right now. She's a historian who wrote a book. She is a Yale professor of studies of women, gender, and sexuality. So this is not like revisionist right-leaning history. It is from the war on poverty to the war on crime. And in this book, she basically takes you from the beginning of the Great Society and LBJ's plans and into the drug war and how that has systematically destroyed communities of color. And not for nothing, anybody who's ever read the Robert Caro books on LBJ, the man was a Southern segregationist until he became vice president. Why would we think that he would be the architect of the great society that would protect communities of color and minorities? I mean, he was not a great man by any stretch of the imagination. He was actually a fairly dog crap piece of human being. Anyways, back to service. So anything that either Elliot or Tricia you'd like to add?
I would speak to welfare because a lot of people, as Elliot was saying, that somebody should do something attitude. Well, maybe that should be you. And so welfare, if I can't remember who said it or where this quote was from. You probably know, Chris. If welfare worked, we wouldn't have it anymore. But welfare begets more welfare. It's designed to do such. So what we need to do is use charity to help people get out of those situations that they're in. And that's not even necessarily, people that need financial help. You were talking about mentoring programs or people that are using drugs. Instead of locking them in a cage, let's figure out how they can become clean, and change their lives that way. Also, programs that help people out of prison. People out of prison, their sentence, they didn't serve their time. They'll serve it till they die. Because once you get out and you have a felony on your record, you've still got chain on your ankle for the rest of your life. And it's very hard to overcome that. So I think we as libertarians could show the opposite of what government does, and fix some of what they do. I think that would be just a shining example. And then it also leads people to ask questions, which means, come on over to the free side. So,
well, when you talk to Rupert and you talk to some of these other charities, they just ask for money. Now, they don't want volunteers. They want money so they can hire staff, because staff is reliable and dependable. And money is in an ever shortening supply in a system where your currency is inflated. But when you talk to folks who run charities, a lot of volunteers show up for the selfie and they come one time, or they go to a training and then they flake. And I'm like as guilty that I love to start things and then get involved, and then 6 months later I'm like, volunteers are you constantly have to be recruiting them, because people in this day and age don't want to put in the work. And if libertarians can be the backbone of service in this country and proving that private charity works, it makes everyone who believes in government assistance more comfortable with giving that up. We have to be the change. There's no other path. You can't argue that we need to remove the welfare state and never serve, because it means that you don't have credibility to folks. So this is a key piece. This is why we wanted to feature it today. Elliot, anything you want to add before we promote the Libertarian Day of Service and wrap up here?
Sure. One thing I want to ask people listening today is, you don't need permission to do this on your own in your area. You can organize it right now. May 1st is about 2 weeks away, so you've got time to put it together, make an event that people can follow and share. And come up, and when you're trying to decide what to do, come up with something where, Chris was saying, you don't need to have a set amount of people. I know in some cases, for the food bank here in Houston, you need to schedule an appointment and have a certain amount of people. Same for the Habitat for Humanity. You have to pre-schedule all these people and hope that they show up. What we're doing is a cleanup and a can drive. It doesn't matter how many people are able to make it, and it doesn't matter, what time they arrive. We're going to be progressing our way along the bayou, and people, if they show up late, they can meet us halfway along, or, if they can't do the physical thing, they can still man the table where we're rallying to collect the cans, for the food drive. So, those kind of ideas, just think of something that is unique and would benefit your city or your community, and just go ahead and it doesn't matter if you have, 4 or 5 people show up, as long as you're out there doing it. It's doing nothing but building goodwill for what we're trying to accomplish. And also it helps you do, as I was saying earlier, live the principles that you're talking about and that you're promoting. If you're setting that example and you're actually doing it, people take a lot more notice, because talk is cheap. So just keep that in mind, and hopefully this inspires you to do something in your own community.
Absolutely. All right. So if you want to set up a Libertarian Day of Service, and you can just do it. You don't need to, necessarily contact anyone. But Elliot, if somebody wants to set something up, how do they go about that and connect with the organization that you mentioned earlier?
The Facebook group for People for Liberty has a discussion page. Do you have the ability to share that URL on the screen here?
Yes, and we're going to be mature when we say this, but it's NLDOS. So that is their acronym.
If
Tricia,
anything,
stop giggling.
Remember NILDOS. So.
NILDOS is the acronym, which is partially, I don't know if somebody didn't like. Tricia, Andrew Bowman, and I, we are the most immature people on the planet. So when I saw NILDOS, I was like, and Tricia was like, so yeah, that is Facebook.
Hopefully we can make that humor allow people to remember it more easily.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. You knew what you were doing.
Exactly. That's what we'll go with. Yeah, it is facebook.com/groups/NILDOS. NLDOS. People for Liberty.org. People, the number for Liberty.org/NILDOS.
And on top of that, if somebody has already organized one in your area, you can see all of them as they're posted there. If you scroll down a little bit, you can actually see the event I made. I saw it when you were scrolling earlier. It's the one with the 3 photos across the top on the banner. There it is, right there, just Blow's bike and his wife.
Yep. So here, there's a Facebook. National Libertarian Day of Service, parentheses, Houston Bayou Cleanup. So go check that out. And yeah, get in touch with your folks. I mean, when you talk about vehicles for social organization, we've talked about this on the show in the past. If you're new to a town, how do you meet people? It's impossible if you're in your 30s. You know, if your kids are homeschooled and you're not religious and you're not political, then where the heck are you going to meet people? So, you know, Libertarian Party groups can be a great vehicle for social organization and getting things launched. So make sure you check that out. Let's go around the horn. Final thoughts for this episode. Rhinehold, you started off and show these newbies how it works. Well, you're going to have to turn yourself on. At least
every time
we never have guests.
This is the way.
And this is why, because we just embarrass ourselves in front of the new people.
Well, you know, we have to have one moment of that, or it's just not, you know, keeping with the theme of the reality of the show. But as I've said before, I think that action like this that libertarians should be taking is the best way to get our message out. I mean, going on Twitter, going on Facebook, social media stuff, that's not going to be the key. The key is going out there and doing the work and helping people and showing that we're serious about this stuff and proving that it works to people. Once you prove to people that it works, they're more inclined to give you a chance in helping other situations as well. So that's how you make a change in the world. You go out and make it. So that's my thoughts on it. And that's pretty much it.
Tricia, final thoughts and shameless self-promotion?
Yes. Hey, if you don't know me, follow me. No. As far as charity goes, talk is cheap. So maybe if you just dedicated 10% of the time you did screaming taxation is theft at people and, you know, promoted a charity or looked into it or actually went out and did something, you probably find it, number one, a lot more satisfying. You find that libertarians really aren't obnoxious when you meet them in person. I've come to know that.
Let me interrupt let me just say that, yeah, Elliot's going, I'm just me. Okay. Let me just say that Facebook libertarians are different than real life libertarians, and you cannot judge the Libertarian Party and its people by Twitter and Facebook and the constant arguments. And when you go to a libertarian convention, you have a great time meeting people. It is so fun. And everybody at your local Libertarian Party is a great person. Your convention is like meeting old friends because it is just really, I am mostly retired from service in the Libertarian Party because I put so much time into my broadcasting efforts here on the We Are Libertarians Network, and it just doesn't leave me a lot of time. But I will say that I miss my libertarian friends, and I was out in Henry County this week in their Libertarian Party office, and I have so many fond memories of traveling the state. I just can't stress enough how great it is to get out in person, meet people, and how different it is. And the constant theme of this podcast, if there's nothing else that I ever leave you with, it is get off of social media. It's like the lead pipes in ancient Rome. It's driving you crazy. Disconnect from social media. Disconnect. Like I'll post, but I unfollow my post and I never look back. And then I go and read a book. I get involved with my friends, family, community, and serve. Use that time. Like I'm able to do another podcast because I'm not hunting for memes all day on social media. Tricia will understand this. You have no idea how time consuming it is to be a meme lord.
Yeah. I agree.
It's really kind of a pathetic thing to say, but it is true. Like you spend an inordinate amount of time looking for good content if you're trying to market your libertarian brand with memes.
I really honestly, of all, used to admin a lot of pages, whether they were LP or just, anarchist page, whatever. And it took so much time. And I'm not going to lie, I still get joy from memes, but it's just like, what a waste of time. I much rather enjoy things like charity, like everything we were talking about, or local meetups or voluntarist meetups. or doing my podcast because I'm sitting and listening to somebody and talking to them, and it's an actual person, and not somebody behind a keyboard, So yeah, I mean, there are a few libertarians that are just as weird in real life, but I think that's the good weird kind.
They're always harmless. They're always harmless.
Yeah.
I mean, I sent out an update, a 45-minute episode for our patrons, just updating the state of the state, because we can't really use our social media pages anymore. And so I am now dubbing this the post-meme era of We Are Libertarians. And a little bit of that is scary because that's how we've built the network, was just, funny content and memes and social media and using the organic growth to drive people back to us. And to not have the ability to do that is tough. But I will tell you that the post-meme era of We Are Libertarians is going to involve building your mind, building your community stronger, and just trying to get you to a happier place. I got a great note from Ryan Lindsay. I hope he doesn't mind me saying this. I want to thank you for convincing me to get off of social media, stop arguing with people on the internet, get into therapy, get in, into books, into my community. I am so much happier. I am living a great life. Tricia, you posted a status, I'm outside in the sunshine at the park. Like, it really enriches your life when you're not drinking the water out of these fountains every single day, and you have so much more time. Put that towards 1 or 2 hours a week in your community at a, whether it's a daycare for folks that have Alzheimer's, like Joy's house here in Indianapolis, or a mentoring program, or it's 1 hour a week. You will find that time if you stop scrolling and reading things from people who are less educated than you. So I just wanted to say that. And congratulations to Ryan Lindsay. They announced that they are going to have a baby, and we are so thrilled for them. There are several We Are Libertarians folks who are in the process of spawning. And Elliot, congratulations. You're one of them. Yeah, I saw that. And Tricia, you just had a little one. And we're so thankful that there is, next generation of libertarians. We don't know what's going to happen to Ryan Lindsay's baby, but I'm sending him the Rush Limbaugh baby books just as a troll. So
he's going to go hard right.
Just rebel right into Dad, have you ever heard of this Richard Spencer? He seems like a good guy. Just kidding, Ryan. Just kidding. So Elliot, final thoughts for you. Shameless self-promotion as well.
Sure. Well, I don't want to promote myself right now. I just want to promote getting involved. If you have not already, if you're one of those just internet libertarians, check out a local meeting. Figure out what your local affiliates are up to. I know not every city or county has an organization, and maybe that's an excuse to start to get one going with a couple of your friends. I'm not presently running for office. Texas is dragging its feet on the redistricting. So I'm waiting to see how that shakes out to make.
Well, it takes time to cheat, right?
Yeah. They've got to make sure that they can maximize the disenfranchisement of voters so that they can win despite only being 25% of the population. Anyway, I'm just keeping an eye on that. And right now it's the legislative session in Texas. They only have it once every 2 years. And we have some awesome dedicated LP Texas volunteers who are actually showing up in Austin at the Capitol to testify on behalf or against certain legislations. The Republican primarily controlled Texas, there's a lot of just gross anti-liberty, social conservative stuff that they're pushing through. And we're trying to be the voices against that. So if you have the capacity or ability to do that in your own area, and that's something that's invaluable. That is the closest a regular person can get to affecting legislation at the local level. And so just all of these things that you can do. I know, Chris, you mentioned earlier that you got burnt out a little bit just from volunteering for each and everything. So don't do that. Find one thing that really motivates you and be that, that guy or gal in your area who leads the way on that.
Elliot Scheirman, thank you so much for joining us. Tricia, thank you for joining us. Rhinehold. Galt messaged me, and you can look up on Facebook the Mooresville Cleanup Day. They're meeting at 261 East South Street, Mooresville, Indiana, on May 1st at 9 a.m. Pick up trash, hang out, have fun. So there's one here in Indianapolis that you can join if you'd like. So thank you, everybody, for joining us here on the program today. Thank you, Elliot. Thank you, Tricia. And thank you, Rhinehold.
Thanks for having us.
And thank you, everybody. We will see you again. Make sure you go check out wearelibertarians.com. All kinds of great things there. Go check out historyofmodernpolitics.com and chrisspangle.com. All kinds of things are happening, bubbling, percolating. And we hope that you will spread the word, because that is how we are going to continue to grow this network. Thank you so much, and we will see you again next week.